All right, Don, we are recording. What are we talking about tonight?
All right, we're going to talk about steps to get into business. And beekeeping, no matter which avenue you take, you can make money at it. Whether you want to do queens, nukes, packages, honey, propolis, pollination, each avenue, if you work at it, you can make money. Now, the things you need to get is your bee equipment, get good stock, get stock that you can work. That's going to be your main thing. You can't sell hot bees to people that are afraid to work bees, because you're going to have a good population of people out there that are brand new beekeepers. But then you're going to have commercial beekeepers that are actually going to buy stock to improve their stock. Now, the things you think that you're going to need to do is decide what you want to do. If you're going to do honey, then combination of deeps, mediums is going to be all you're going to need. If you're going to sell queens, then you're going to need a lot of 5-frame boxes. You're going to need deep. Now, the choice is going to have to be up to you. If you're going to work the hives yourself, you're going to have to lift them a lot. You're going to work a lot of hives, not going to work just 1 or 2. So think about 10-frame versus 8-frame versus the 5-frame. And before you jump in and say, I'm not going to run mediums, I'm going to run all deeps. Well, we have a lot of people out there that are getting into beekeeping that have bad backs. They have disabilities. So all mediums work good for them. But then on the other hand, don't say, I'm going to run all mediums, because you're going to have people that are commercial that want to buy your stock. And most commercial people are using deeps. Okay, the next thing you're going to need to do is buy stock. Now, you can sell your own bees. You can get on Craigslist. You can get on Facebook. There's a lot of places to do it. Bee clubs, go to several bee clubs. Let them know you got local bees. If you're going to sell bees in volume to make a living, I'll buy bees from you. If you're close by and you have enough hives, we'll come there and we'll shake bees into packages. We'll teach you how to do it. I'll work with anybody and help them out. Now, I have a student in West Virginia. If you want to buy a good stock, Jason Bragg runs New River Bees. He's running several lines. If you're just getting started and you're thinking about opening a business, I would suggest buy production queens and learn to handle bees, learn to cage queens, learn to mark queens. They're a lot cheaper than buying high dollar breeder queens. And unless you're going to keep pure stock, there's no need to do that. And also rotate stock. Buy stock from several different people. Keep it hopefully in several different yards. That way you know what has good bees, which are more hotter, which you can work. And the thing to do is, people say spring is the only time to get started. If you want to make money, get into it now. If you can afford to buy packages now. Put sugar to them. If you can buy the nukes, it's a quicker start. Now, you're going to have to make a decision: all chemical free, all plastic, all natural wood and wax. Each one is going to have an advantage and it's going to have a disadvantage. You're selling to people that don't want to use chemical, making your own foundation or natural draw comb is good. Commercial people load stuff with big loaders. They move it all over the country. Natural stuff doesn't work good for them because there's a 2-inch honey band, and if they hit a bump, all the frames or all the wax and comb is on the bottom of the hive. So plastic in that case works out good. And this bee club or this bee group here is the best place if you're going to do cutouts. I mean, for $10 a month, you get in here and say, hey, I'm Joe, I'm over here, I'm Bob, I'm over here. I'll do cutouts. If you want to get on my webpage, then you can contact E and he'll set up a place on the page for you. All right, if anybody's got questions about that, or if you're not interested in setting a business up and just want to hobby it, ask questions. We had a lot of people tonight talking about paint and stuff. We got quite a bit of a thing going on. And I was hoping the same people would jump on here tonight and put their input on that. Paint is paint. You know, if it's free, it's good. So I'm open for answering questions.
All right. Surprise, surprise. Paul's up first. Go ahead, Paul.
Now, Don, when you, like, some of my bees are really hot, boy, and I got nothing but a bunch of mutts, but if I wanted to buy some of your queens, mated queens, will they all be your bees in a couple of weeks' time?
Not in a couple of weeks. You know, you're going to have to replace queens if you got a hot hive. But look at the hive and see if that's the problem. If it's the queen or if there's something else causing it to be, you know, a little bit hot. Sometimes it's just old comb, bad genetics. Could be, you know, you got something under the hive. A lizard, you got something agitating the bees.
Well, I noticed too, these bees, they're totally different from the rest of them. They're almost pitch black.
Well, don't decide because of color that the bees are no good. Because I've got bees that have no stripes. They're blue-black. I've got some that are golden yellow. I got some that got black tips and they're sort of leathery looking. Color really don't have a whole lot of bearing. But now I have found that the dark queens, the ones that are almost black, seem to do well up north. And I've noticed over in these yards here, they seem to do pretty good in the hot weather. So I guess a lot of the genetics is going to be, you know, your preference. Mix up your genetics. That's what I can say. I don't run purebreds. I got away from purebreds about 8 to 10 years ago. I found it mixing them. And if you're going to get into making queens, I would suggest the green comb. At least one frame of green comb in each hive, or you can set up a 10-frame hive somewhere and put 6 frames of that in there and just, you know, 4 frames in the middle of natural or regular comb. You want to saturate your bee yard with the genetics that you want. But I wouldn't put the green comb in the hive that you consider it's hot. Get the best hive and put your drone comb in.
Yeah. And that drone comb, after they draw that out and cap it all off, you just throw it in the freezer and let them clean it up?
That's for mite control. You have to let those drones hatch out. That's what you're mating queens with.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay. Now I got you.
Yeah. If you did that, you'd never get queens mated unless there's drones in the area.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Over to Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, I was going to ask this question later, but seeing as how Paul already breached the hot hive issue, probably close to 2 weeks ago, a guy posted a picture of his gloves, and like one glove had 150 stingers in it, and another guy posted one in the last few days where he opened up a hive to make a split, and he was consumed immediately. Those ones look like they had African traits, but have you ever experienced open up a hive and had them come out and consume you?
Me?
Yeah.
If you look at my picture that's on my web page, and it's on where I got my face on top of a beehive, that was done 8 or 10 years ago with a couple professors from a college. The university was over here, and they had bee suits on and gloves. And they said, well, because my bees are worked so much, there's not enough bees in the hive. So one of my students opened up a double hive, and they come boiling out, and I set my face on that hive, and they come out all around my face. And I talked to the professor. I said, now take your glove off and lay it on top of it. Before he could turn his glove loose on that particular hive, they had filled that glove up, totally annihilating it.
But has it ever happened to you where you opened one up and you had to put the cover on and run away or walk away fast?
Not really. I have not had that. I've done cutouts without a bee suit. The biggest problem people work their hives, I don't know if they're just taught how to work a hive wrong, But the first thing they do is they go to the front of the hive and they blow a bunch of smoke in there before they even open it. I just set my smoker between the hive, and then as the hive opens up, let it whiff across the frames. That's all you need. When you puff the front, you rile them bees up, and then if you got to pop a frame loose or something, you jar that hive, you set the bees off. I think a lot of things, it's just people are not taught how to work a hive properly.
Yeah, I used to do that too when I first started. I'd blow a couple of puffs in the entrance. I'd blow a puff under the lid. I'd wait 20, 30 seconds and then take the lid off. And myself, I didn't have a problem doing that. But, you know, now I hear you say, don't do that, you know. So now I take the cover off and I have screened top covers, you know, so my bees aren't going anywhere. And once I take the lid off, then I just put a couple of puffs across the top of the hive and I open it up and I do my thing. But you know, it was you and, you know, the other guys like JP and Yappy and Barnyard and all these guys, Dirt Rooster, all these guys that handle bees all day long, and they go and do these cutouts, and most of the time they're not wearing any protection. They don't even have glasses on to protect their eyes or anything. They wear nothing. So then I thought to myself, well, geez, you know, if Dawn can do it and they can do it, my bees are the same as their bees, unless there's a problem. And step by step, you know, I left this off and I left that off, and to where now I can only, you know, I only wear safety glasses to protect my eyes. But you see these other things happening when people say, I go in the hive all the time, it's not a problem. Today I opened it up and they attacked me. And I understand things can happen to trigger them off like that, but I was just wondering if it ever happened to you that you had one boil out and tear you up.
The only problem I've ever had is having students come and they're super afraid of being stung. And so they handle the frames a little bit rougher. I've had them drop a frame. And when you drop a frame, then you have a problem. So you have to learn to work with it.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for me for now. Let these other guys go. Thank you.
I will throw in one little tidbit. If anybody uses those frame grabbers, do not rely on them to hold any amount of weight if you are picking beads up with that. I learned my lesson the first year I having them and slipped and dropped a frame, and yeah, they got a little riled up over that.
When it comes to accessories for your beehive, keep it to a minimum.
Well, Don, I didn't know you when I
At
bought
least
all
get up
the
there, better off to go
I
out.
needed to buy. All right, over to Ernest. Go ahead, Ernest.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Hello, everybody. About bees and wearing a suit and not wearing a suit. I've done both. I've been stung wearing a suit and not wearing a suit. I don't wear gloves. The other day, I think for a novice beekeeper like myself, there's things that happen so quickly, you don't even see it coming. I have a 10 frame, 3 deep. I lifted up the top cover, and I could feel weight on it. So I knew they had built some bridge comb between the top of the frames and the covers. Well, I tilted it to the left, and I could hear the frames like clicking, going back down into position. So as I pulled the frame up, I forgot to put a frame in the last time I was in there.
Been there.
They built a comb so fast, I couldn't believe it. And the only way I could fix the problem was to lift the entire box off, the comb and everything. And that's what I was doing. And it was just about to clear the top of the super, and it broke. It was full of honey and bees, and it plopped back down into my box. I have never seen my bees in the last year and a half come after me like they did. I mean, they had stung both my hands 5 times before I could even put the cover down. And so I think you have to lose, if you're a new beekeeper, you have to be careful. You're not steady in the boxes yet. You do dumb things that can really set off your bees. Some people say I ran. I call it a strategic retreat. But I had to move 50, 60 yards away. They wanted me, and I would have had a couple hundred stings if I didn't have my full suit on. So that's something to consider. I like to work without anything, but if you're new, you better be prepared for dumb things that you do to set off your bees. And I've had it happen twice, and it's not fun when they come after you. So,
Well, one thing to do, you know, I'm guilty of making splits so fast that I forget to put a frame in. I run most of my 5-frame with 2 frames or 3 frames. So if I got a bunch of them out there and I haven't checked them for a while, in a day or a day and a half, it's remarkable on a honey flow how fast they can draw a comb. But now, one thing you can do is always keep a 5-frame empty box with no bottom board and a 8-frame with no bottom board in different places. And when you lift the box up and you see you forgot one, the best thing to do is set another box underneath it and set that one on top of it till you find out where your queen's at.
okay.
If you've got brood in it, what I do is I take a 5-frame box and I cut that comb off if there's brood and larvas in there, and I'll set it in a 5-frame box and try to make use of it.
Well,
And then the honey that's on it, the best thing to do is just set it in a lid off a ways and let the bees clean it up. If you put that in where you made that split, you have more of a chance for robbing.
well, I'll tell you another thing quickly. Another thing I learned is that, you know, as soon as they stung my hand, I said, okay, girls, you're going to play rough today. I'm going to go put my gloves on. So somebody had told me 3mm gloves were enough to stop a bee. Well, I had to go back into my hive, reach down into my hive and grab this comb that was down at the bottom. Well, they let me take the first piece out. And when I went in for the second piece, believe me, maybe it stops the nurse bees, but the field warriors, man, they go through that 3mm glove like it's nothing. I took up another 5 or 6 things. So, but anyway, and by the way, the queen came back. Pat, you said about leaving the cover off last time I was here. She came back. I just had to promise her 3-to-1 sugar water, put the addition on the house, and tell her I'm sorry once in a while. So.
Well, I've done bees for a while, and sometimes you'll drop a queen. I mean, it happens. The best thing to do is just close the hive up and watch where you're walking. And sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't, but you're lucky.
Yeah, I get lucky.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. That's my question. The comment.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, getting back to the smoke in the front entrance, I don't know, somebody might have mentioned this once, but if you smoke the front entrance, maybe you even said it, Don, you're pushing all the bees up to the top. So when you open the lid, all of the bees are in the top now, you know? But just, I made some splits yesterday. Well, I made them on Thursday, and then I bought some mated queens. But I took some deep frames out, extracted the honey because they were filling that all. They were backfilling all of those frames. But then I took those extracted frames and put them in my splits just so they would have some open comb. So when they released the queen, she could start laying right away. So hopefully that works out.
I don't think I would have done that.
Why, you think that would have caused robbing?
Yeah, because you have such a surface area that you've extracted out, and the smell of that honey and the hot knife going across it, sometimes it'll set off a robbing frenzy. I think if you're going to make a split, you would be better off to do a partial frame of honey, some that's a little bit open and mostly capped, and then reduce that entrance down fairly small.
Yeah, I have it reduced down pretty small, so hopefully they can guard it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, over to Ricky. Go ahead, Ricky.
Yeah, g'day. Yeah, I dropped my first frame yesterday, so I just thought I'd confess that. So I got stung once, and it was on the big toe because I was wearing the safety thongs, and I stepped, and obviously I must have, when I made a step, I must have crushed one a little bit. So it was a honey frame, or it was uncapped, and if it was a real bugger trying to get all the bees back that fell down. They all wanted to just eat all the little bits of honey that was, all nectar that was there. So eventually, about an hour later, they all crawled back into the hive. So anyway, that was my first frame drop experience.
It happens to everybody. I don't care how long you've been doing bees. I drop them. You know, like every so often, as you get older, sometimes you get to that point where you're reaching in and your body gets in a certain position and you just lose your grip and the frame will drop. And sometimes I've had them halfway out of a box and drop them, but you know, that's just part of life. You get used to it. The main thing is don't let them know you're scared. It's you give off that fear that, oh, the end of the world's coming, and they sense it and they come out. They let you know it is.
Yeah, well, I wasn't wearing a veil or anything, so, you know, it was good. Hopefully that's my worst one.
Okay.
Probably not, but you'll have more stories.
Yep.
All right, over to Joe May. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, as Don knows, I don't wear safety material for working my bees. And last year, I had guys picking up nukes. And it invariably, 4 or 5 of them come at once. So I was in a hurry. Used Don's brick system. Brick standing up, that hive's ready to sell. Went over, I knocked that brick over. Smacked the top of that lid. Never thought nothing about it. I cracked that hive open. They hit me 30 times before I could blink my eyes. I just said, you don't want this hive today. We walked over and had to work the rest of them. So, you know, little things like that, it'll set them off. That's all I got.
Well, now, when you have people pick nukes up, you know how Stephen keeps them on time when they make an appointment, when they pick their nuke up? If they're supposed to pick it up at 5 o'clock and they show up at dusk, he always insists on, you want to see the clean, and he hands them the flashlight and let them hold it. That way they learn quicker.
Well, typically, I think I've been selling bees for what, 4 years now, and I think I've had one person get stung in the yard, and they just kept. He had something in his hair, and they kept stinging him in the back of the head. And I just finally told him to go to the car, and I'd get his bees up. I didn't have nothing on, but I never even thought about that brick. I usually lay it down, and it smacked the top of that hive, and when I cracked that lid open, they nailed me about 30 times before I could get the lid back down. It happens. That's one bad thing about your brick system. You don't want to do that.
Well, you got to have the good with the bad.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, thanks, Don.
Okay, Paul again. Go ahead, Paul.
You know, sometimes like when I'm just walking around the hives, I'm not wearing anything, but that's the only time that I don't wear anything. I have to wear something when I'm doing my inspections. I'm not there yet to wear no gloves or a veil. But you have some bees that are like flying around your head. They're chasing you. I mean, are they out to sting you, or are they just buzzing around you?
Most of the time, especially this time of the year, they're landing on you just to suck salt off of you. If the bee is going to sting you, believe me, they're going to fly right in. You're not even going to have a warning. They're going to sting you. Most of the time, if they're just buzzing around, they're looking for salt, they're going to land on you, or they're just going to crawl on you a little bit. You get used to it.
Yeah, because like I'm walking around and the bees are flying around my head, and I'm like, Jesus, are they out to get me, or are they just checking me out?
They're just checking you out.
All right, thanks, Don.
Okay, Patricia.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I just had a funny story. We were delivering nukes a couple of years ago, and a guy called and said he just wanted to stop by and talk about bees and get some more information. So we were out in the yard, you know, doing our thing, and he come roaring up on a motorcycle, and he had just come from church. So he had all of his aftershave on, had his hair all slicked back. The bees tore him up. They followed him to the third light pole on my dirt lane before he could get away from them. He's running down the driveway flapping. It took him about a half an hour before he could come back and get his motorcycle. That's all.
Okay, Greg has a question. Go ahead, Greg. Oh, wait a minute. I can't unmute you. There you go.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, this is my first time here, and I'm a new beekeeper. And I have a question for Don. I'm really glad you decided this is getting into business type discussion today. And that was my main question. I was hoping it wouldn't be too wide or too much information needed to answer it. But I was wanting to raise queens and sell nukes. So I was just wondering something about the timeline about getting ready for next year if I'm wanting to sell nukes or queens bees. Now, what should I be doing now?
If you're getting ready to go in next year, then you need to be building like crazy right now. And I kind of went through what you kind of need. You're going to have to figure out what you want to work. I run 8s and 5s, and some people are still stuck on 10s. So if you're going to manipulate hives, 8s and 5s are going to be your best bet to sell. So if you're going to build 10 frame hives or 10 8-frame hives, a good rule is 4 nukes for each hive, because you're going to split and then hope you have time to make more boxes. And as far as numbers out there to make a living, if you got 100 to 150 hives and you work them at a full-time rate, you can make money. Now, if you got a job, I would suggest doing the 5-frame box, work them as nukes, and sell them on weekends. If you got, where you can spend the time, then do the mini nukes. That's a 6 1/4 frame cut in half, and it's 8-inch wide board. It's an 8-inch miniature hive. It's 7 inches high, 8 inches wide, and it's about 9 1/2 inside long. And all them frames, we make them completely out of scrap or our drops out there. The only frames that we actually buy is we buy the Man Lake frames. I'm not really putting a plug in, but of all the bee suppliers out there, Man Lake, I think, overall has best frames from 1 year to the next. They're interchangeable. I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but I have bought in the past from different people, and one run of their frames, and if you have parts left over, the next year from the same company, those frames are either too loose, they're too tight, they're split. And as far as overall appearance, get a premium frame, you get a premium price for your nukes. And buy good stock. You don't need to take classes from me. I got enough information up there. Go to a bee club, get somebody to let them work with you. I'm probably teaching more things that are not in books. Probably 90% of the things I teach you is not in books. And a lot of it's how to manipulate hives and how to take packages and turn them into nukes faster than what most people do. You're going to have to decide, it's going to be honey, it's going to be pollinating, or selling bees, nukes or queens. That's going to be your thing. Don't sit there and think, I'm going to be a big honey producer and I'm going to make queens, because it ain't going to happen. You can make queens and have some excess honey, but queens is a full-time job, believe me. Daylight to dark. And then when you think you're going to bed, you're cutting parts out. Like right now, people think my season's winding down. I'm selling nukes all the way up to the 30th of November. We're selling queens daily. And when November hits to February, I'm building new equipment, building feeders, getting stuff ready for the following year. Packages. If you think you can't sell bees, talk to anybody that's on my Facebook or on here. You got bees, they want them. And don't undersell, There's a market for them. Good bees bring a good price.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Over to Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey Don, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I was able to use my Provate 110 for the first time today, and wasn't real sure where to put the hole in the back of the hive. The way mine are built is the bottom, a screen bottom board, slatted rack, and then the brood chambers. Is there a optimum place to put that hole?
Yeah, leave the hole out and just shoot it in the front. Do as least to them hives as possible. You're not going to get the effect with a screen bottom board, And what I usually do is I poke the front of my 110, the ProVap, and it's got a little stand on the front, and that thing in the front, it'll sit there. And I'll put it in the front of one of the hives, and then I'm loading the cap for the next one. Now, you probably could get some, whatever you do is going to be better than nothing. But, if you put a board in there or a piece of plastic to, over that screen bottom board, you're going to get better coverage. But
I did insert the plastic sticky boards. It's not sticky, but I inserted those before I did it, so all the vapor didn't go out the bottom of the hive.
Yeah. You're going to get better than nothing, but I would use solid bottoms and I would blow it in the front. Now,
Okay.
if you're doing nukes, I'm running on the 8-frame stuff, I'm doing 2 a minute. It takes about 30 seconds. By the time it cycles out, I got the next one ready. Now, the 5-frame nukes, I'm doing 4 a minute, but I'm not doing a whole charge. When it starts going good, I stick it out into the next hole, and I'm using a 1-inch hole on my nukes, my 5-frame nukes.
Okay. Thanks for the help.
Okay.
Okay, over to Joe May. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, back to the guy who was thinking about going in business selling nukes and queens. Yeah, the first year it's not going to be just the best in the world. You're going to sell some, but if you sell good queens, you make sure they're mated when you ship them, and you can keep up. I run over 200 hives here. I've got over 150 mating nukes, and my web page has been shut down since January. They call me 30 times a week. I can't keep up. I've got to wait. I got a list. I don't even have to worry about it. I got a list of mile-long queens, and they'll wait on them. You think that, this guy's been waiting 6 weeks. You don't want the queens. You call them up. Yep, I still want my queens. There's a market. If you sell a good product, I mean, don't raise these mean bees. If you got mean bees, don't breed out of them. Breed out of something that's gentle and people can work, and they'll come back. I've got guys that buy 20 and 30 queens every year off of me, and repeat customers, and that's what you want to build the business. That's all I got to say.
Now, you can get into, if you just go around within an hour to 2-hour driving distance, a circle from your house, and every bee club that I know of will let you come there, visit. And most bee clubs, it's anywhere from $10 to $25 membership. Believe me, if you pay $10 for each bee club, and you tell people that's there at the bee club, when they see you in person and they can look at you and you say, I'm raising queens, you'll have more business than you can handle. I have not advertised since 1970, and I can't keep up. I send many customers to a lot of my students because they're closer and they can fill the orders. So that should be at the bottom of your list. As far as doubting your ability, you produce the queens, they'll buy them. You produce bees or the nukes, even honey. You produce a good quality honey and people buy it. I stopped selling honey because it just takes up too much time. But I've been selling honey for $20 a quart strain, $35 for combing it. If you want it, fine. If you don't, buy it, go get Kmart or whatever. Quality will sell itself. And one customer brings another.
Okay. Anthony?
Yeah, I was going to reply to Steve, but I don't see him in the screen. He might have walked away. There he is. Don's got a lot of hives, so he may not want to go drill a 1/4-inch hole in hundreds of hives. And I see Don's video and he shoots it in the front. I only have 7 hives, 6 or 7. And so I did drill a 1/4-inch hole in the back. And you want to just drill it down low above the bottom board because the vapor is going to rise up when you shoot it in there, And then you're not standing in front of the hive when they're trying to go in and out. I try not to do anything in front of the hive myself, if I can. But, I drilled my hole in the back just up above the bottom board. I've watched Joe May's video, and I forget now. Joe can say, I don't know if Joe drilled holes and he's doing it from the back or the front. Joe's shaking his head yes, so Joe's doing it from the back too. And another thing, I put the Joe May beetle traps in my bottom boards, and they really work great. I don't know how many, but I posted a video in the last week where I didn't know these little brown beetles were in there until I went in there, but I have these other little tiny things running around. And so what I did is I took all the bees out of the box, put them in a temporary box, and then I just quickly pressure washed out the box. I cleaned it, and then I put everything back together. And mainly what I was doing was trying to get rid of those little things that were running around because I don't know what they are. I don't want to put chemicals in there, and I wouldn't know what to use because I don't know what the hell they are anyway. So I cleaned the box, and when I took it apart, I also cleaned out the beetle traps, and I put about a 40-second video clip there. I had these little tiny brown beetles in there, and the other one, they had pushed a lot of wax moth larvae into that Joe May beetle trap. So they work for me really well. Thanks, Joe. That's all I got. Go ahead.
All right, over to Dale Jones. Go ahead, Dale.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
That swarm I caught, I finally got around to going through it. There's no queen in it. I put a frame of young larvae and eggs in there, and I went through it today, 10 days later. They've got probably 8 or 10 emergency cells. But are the emergency cells about 3/4 the size of a regular queen cell?
A queen cell is going to be a queen cell. If it's not properly developed, then probably they didn't have enough resources, didn't have enough pollen coming in, they didn't feed the queen, well enough. So, to me, it doesn't matter where the queen cell is on that frame. If you've got a queen cell and it's properly, fed, you're going to have a good queen.
Okay, we'll wait and see on that. On the other thing, y'all was talking about them bees. This is my 3rd year. And I can tell that the bees tolerate me a lot more this year than they have the past 2 years. And
You're just getting better looking, that's why.
What it is. But my mentor, he was an Amish fella till he moved to Missouri this year. And when I was starting bees, I told him I didn't know nothing about bees, how to keep bees. He said, they'll teach you. And that's basically what has happened. Is when you make a mistake, they're going to let you know it.
They teach me every day.
Thank you, Don, for being here.
Okay. Nobody else has their hands up, Don. It's all you.
And here I thought I was going to be swamped with questions tonight. Mary's there. Mary ain't going to ask no questions tonight?
Mary's too tired. She was out in the bee yard today.
Mary's one of my commercial students, and she is, I hope next year, going to start selling bees.
Yes, I'm planning on it. We're working towards that. We are. I agree with you 100%. I did not anticipate having to have as many boxes as I needed.
You'll never have enough boxes.
No, and you told me well ahead of time to make sure I had enough, and we worked hard, and I thought I had it, but no way. No way.
Well, see, a lot of people come here, and the first thing they want to do, they want to learn to grab queens. And I try to tell them, naturally drawed queen cells that the bees make themselves. If you cut them out, there is no way in this world you can make boxes fast enough. And they just look at me like I'm from another planet. But it's been here, that's seen it, know it, they see it. And if you want to get into higher production, then grafting is the thing to do.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Out of the packages that I have about 27 hives now, and I could easily quadruple that in the next week.
It's a full-time job building equipment, believe me. And
we're learning.
Mary's been down here several times, and Ernest has been down here. Tom's been down here. Joe's been here. There's no high-tech secrets here. It's just hard work. Anybody can make a living at this, and that's what I'm trying to get out there. That get off your butt. If you love bees, this is the best way to make a living. Do something that you like.
Well, we appreciate all your knowledge. I surely do, John.
Well, thank you.
All right, now we got some hands up. So let's see, go over to Joe May.
You have to stir the nest once in a while.
Yeah, I got to tell you a little story about a queen cell, Don. here early in the spring, I had a hive that got queenless, and they made queen cells. And I didn't want queens out of that hive, so I put a grafted cell in there, and I thought, well, I'll just cut the cells out, throw them in the incubator. I know you don't use an incubator. Left them in there, and they all hatched out, and I used them someplace else. And one of them didn't hatch, and I just left it in there and left it in there. In about 6 days, so it hatched. It was a drone in a queen cell. And I didn't cut a drone cone. Them guys told me I cut a drone cone. I went in and got the daggone cell. I said, you see that? That's a queen cell. They had capped a drone cell, and it hatched in the incubator. So they do about anything.
They will do strange things.
Yeah, they will.
Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Don, did you see that video on the group page with a bunch of bees flying into an AC unit?
Yeah, I seen that. Someone has made a comment that was pesticide or something that was on that.
Do you think that's what it is?
It's hard to say. You know,
curious on that.
Bees, they get into wherever there's water. That they might have got in where the condensing unit was discharging water, and the fan might have beat them up and knocked them down. It's hard to say unless you're there and see it.
Once some start getting chewed up in there, is that releasing pheromones that attract?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the same thing that when you kind of smash a couple bees on a beehive, then pretty soon they start nailing you because of that smell that's on your hands.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
All right, over to Greg. Go ahead, Greg. Oh, wait, there we go.
Okay, question about raising queens. Another timing question as well, because I started with 2 nukes this year, and I'm up to 10 colonies by splitting, etc. But I still have the 2 original colonies are still growing, but still I've been keeping them pulled down enough where they're not making queen cells. So this coming spring, I would like to start grafting queens and get a good setup and go and maybe sell a few. And
Where do you live?
I'm in northeast Alabama.
Well, if you're in northeast Alabama, you can split right now up into the end of October.
Yeah.
Just put your bees in a 5-frame box and keep them crowded. Put some sugar water in an open feeder and let them get crowded. They'll make all kind of cells for you.
Okay, I can try that because I would really like to try doing that. And I just didn't want to risk any resources. All right, but as far as you were talking earlier about getting the green cone with drones and having enough drones in the yard to raise queens, if I'm not mistaken, it takes a drone 40 days to become fully sexually mature before they can go on the mediplex. Everyone knows the age of the queen has to be before she can go. So obviously you have to put the drones on tap before the queen. You start your queen. So
if you're not going to breed a lot of queens and you've got 10 hives there, you more than likely have sufficient drones there.
Okay.
What we're doing here is we have to supplement the drones because, you know, we're running 200 to 500 hives, either combination 8-frame stuff or 5-frame, plus a couple hundred mini nukes. So we're probably mating out. My son brought over 100 queen cells about 12 days ago. So he'll bring another batch over. And right now, this is our slow time. So, you know, springtime, we'll probably do 3 times that right here in this yard. So if you're not producing enough, but now one advantage of getting bees from down by Florida, or down the South Georgia, is the drones are mature. You bring them up here and you can actually mate your queens. If you do your grafting and have cells that are ready, that's going to hatch in the middle of March, you can mate them fine if you bring packages up. But you have to buy, there's a guy last year I run across him, which he shakes packages and sells packages, but he shakes them through a queen excluder. He wants to keep all his drones himself, which if you're going to be a honey producer up here or make hives, you got a good deal. But for someone like me, it's not going to do me any good. And when you start selling bees, people that do artificial insemination like Jason Bragg does it up there in West Virginia, there's a lot of people around they'll call you up and have you send them a couple pounds of mostly drones. You got a 95% package of nothing but drones just for mating. If you got good good stock. They usually know one another. They know who to buy from and who not to buy from, believe me.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, over to PJ. Go ahead, PJ.
Hey guys. Hey, this question is for Don or Joe May, since I know you both move a lot of queens. Do either one of you use any type of queen bank, or are you pretty much putting cells straight into mini mating nukes, going from your incubator in the cage? How are you doing it?
I have not been able to have excess amount of queens probably for the last 12 years to bank them. When I bank them, basically my banking would be catch them in the yard, and if I can keep them in the house for 3 days, that's banked enough for me. Because right now the queens, everybody, I don't know of anybody that has a surplus. Now, the big producers in South Georgia and Florida, Louisiana, I know a lot of them bank usually around October, November. They'll bank anywhere from 300 to 500 queens to a hive. So, but banking, is not a good way to store queens. And people can sell you queens February and say they're fresh queens. More than likely, they're lying through their teeth. They're banked queens. And when a queen has been banked that long, it might not be a good queen.
Yeah, I think I got a couple of those this year.
Not for me.
No, not from you. Not from you.
No.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. I'm like Don. You don't have to get them banked now. I do have 4 banked right now, just because I raise a bunch of different pure bloodlines. The easiest way to bank queens is to take a double 8 frame or a double 10 frame and pull 2 frames of open brood up to the top box and stick your queen bank frame in there. No queen extruder, no nothing. Stick them right in there. They'll take care of them fine. Forget that queen extruder stuff. Jason Braggs runs it. He got me running it. I have no problem. They don't kill the queens. They feed them just fine.
Yeah, I just built my first bank today. And it's just because I'm still working a full-time job. So I got to do all my stuff on evenings and weekends. And there's just sometimes I can't get out to the yard every day. So I need to be able to bank them for 3 or 4 days when possible.
Yeah, but JZB Easy queen cages, they make a shipping bar for that. And you can get that to fit in between a frame and stick them up. Well, I put candy in the end of them so that I just do. Stick them in there. And you don't want it, if it get hot, the candy melt and run down on the queen if they're in the bank. So I stick them upside down, and I bank mated queens and virgins right beside of them. They take care of all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's amazing. I mean, I've always heard, they'll kill the queens. They'll kill the queens. There's nothing to that. If you put 2 frames open brood one on each side of it, them nurse bees will take care of them queens just fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Paul, go ahead, Paul.
Don, when I'm watching the entrance of the hive and watching the bees coming and going, I really don't see any drones leaving the hive. Do they only leave the hive when the queen's on her mating flight?
More than likely, you don't have a lot of drones in there. They're probably already starting to run them out on where you're living. You should have drones in there.
Oh, no, I have drones in there, but I very rarely see them, coming and going like the workers do.
But the situation you're talking about is a good situation. When you see a lot of drones going in and out, then your population of workers is way down. You've got a drone layer in there, or you have a lot of stretched out comb in there and they're making too many drones. And now's the time to be going through your hive. You should be getting ready for winter. You should be getting full frames of brood right now. And if you're, piddling around trying to do a few queens, you might want to start using some pollen substitute or pollen patties or some mega bee if you're going to graft or try to sell queens, because they're not bringing enough. We've had so much rain here, and I guess it's pretty much all over. There's so much rain. There's not enough pollen to make big increases right now unless you're substituting it. Now, You can
Yeah,
put it out in a box and let them come and get dry pollen. And that way you can keep the beetle situation to a minimum. If you're going to put patties in, if you buy pre-made packet patties, most of them are almost a 1 pound or 8 ounce patties. Cut them up into 8 pieces, and then you want those bees to clean it up in 24 hours to 36 hours. If they take too long, you're going to be having a beetle problem.
Yeah, well, I tell you, this year with the beetles, I tell you, I've hardly seen any small hive beetles in my hives, which thank God is good. But what the heck? What did I want to say now? Oh, no, I forgot. Yeah, slipped my mind. All right, I'll get back to you when it comes back to me.
Okay. Nobody else got their hands up. Gonna have to start calling on people soon. 10 minutes to kill here. Come on, there we go.
It's funny on the group there. Everybody wants to jump in there and voice their opinion, but when they get on a chat where they can actually talk about it, they're shy. I don't know what's going on.
They wait until 8:55 to get all the hands up.
There you go.
All right, PJ, go ahead.
No, Paul brought up a good point, which I'm not complaining. Last year, we had small hive beetle, something fierce in northern Indiana. I have to yet seen one hive beetle in any of my hives all summer, which, like I say, I'm not complaining, but I don't know if other people in Indiana are seeing the same thing. I don't know if you are, Joe, but I have not seen one single beetle yet.
Maybe people are realizing to go through their hive more and check for them, keep them under control.
All righty, Ernest. I'm sorry, I forgot your name, Ernest friend.
John, thank you.
Okay.
Well, anything. I'll answer to just about anything. The question I have is, I have a lot of uncapped honey in my hives, and I was waiting to use the Oxy vape. I just bought one of those as well, and I'm waiting to use it. And we have had so much humidity here. Is that causing, I guess, a slowdown in the evaporation of the honey? And is that why I have so much open?
It's a possibility. Do you have enough vent holes in your boxes to get more ventilation?
Yeah, I use a Fat B-Man style feeder, and then I drilled 2 1/4-inch holes, 2 of them in the back of the hives.
Are you going to sell the honey? Are you going to eat it? Or what are you going to do with the honey?
Well, I've been eating it, but I'm diabetic, so it's starting to, I got to be careful how much I eat myself, but I'm giving it away at Christmas time as gifts and stuff. Next year, I'm hoping to start selling some honey.
One thing you could probably think about is if it's capped, and pull those frames out, extract it, and the other leave it on. I run oxalic acid on them almost 12 months of the year. I mean, I'm not in the business to sell honey. I would much rather use the honey to make more bees.
Okay.
And, if it's capped, you're not going to have a problem if you do vaporize it. But if you worry about it, pull it before you vaporize it.
Yeah, my biggest concern is kind of what Paul had, is that I'm kind of honey bound. And I want to give them, when I put a frame in within 2 weeks, they've laid it pretty solid. So
are you running wood and wax, or are you running on plastic?
I'm running wood, yes.
All right, here's what I done last year. We had probably a good 50, 75 supers of honey mixed with sugar water, whatever, that was partially capped and some was not capped. I just took a knife and I cut it out of the frames, put it in a big pot, and brought it up to where the wax melted, dumped it in 5-gallon buckets, and then when the wax hardened, put a lid on it, I fed it. If you got uncapped honey and you're worried about it fermenting, if you bring it up to almost a boil without caramelizing it, it'll kill any of the alcohol that's in it. It stops fermentation, and it's good for bee feed. I mean, that's one alternative if you're getting honey bound.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I have the same problem Mary has. I couldn't make boxes quick enough this year. I could probably split my hives again and double them. And I'm finding queen cells, like you said. I'm really crowding the boxes, but I have nowhere to go with them. So this winter, I'm going to make a couple hundred boxes because you really need, like you said.
And see, you worry about making a living. You can't make boxes fast enough.
I know. And it's frustrating because when you finally have the bees there and you're ready for another box, you're looking around and there's not much you can do except for make another box. So,
Right.
But, well, thank you very much then.
Okay.
Paul, did you finally remember what you wanted to ask?
Yeah. No, you were talking about those pollen patties, Don, but I'm hoping in another week here the ragweed is going to start to bloom. So hopefully it'll bring in a lot of pollen if we don't get a lot of rain. I mean, this week over here, I don't know about by UE, but we had some heavy
Well,
rain.
there was 2 or 3 people on my group had sent me some pictures of goldenrod blooming for 2 to 3 weeks already in Illinois and Ohio. So I have some goldenrod down here, but it's not really opening yet. We have ceresus right now, which is like a fern. There's a little white flower under each leaf, and it's just now starting to open up. We got yellow asters, we got blue asters, we got, there's quite a bit of clover coming up. There's wild strawberries and sheep sorrel. Today's the first day in 7 or 8 days that we've actually had much sun, so there's a lot of stuff popping out. But it's not going to be a lot of pollen. I noticed today looking at some of the hives, they're bringing a bright yellowing and some are bringing a sort of an orangey look, but it's not, it might be bottle brush, devil's bottle brush, I guess. It's hard to say we got Russian wild sunflowers down here. They start blooming now. So it takes a while to learn all your different blooms and what bees work and what they don't work. So if you're in doubt and you want to make queens, put some pollen substitute out there. Take a box, turn it sideways, or take a 5-frame box and just stand it up the way it is with a 1-inch hole in there with a lid on it and a half a cup of pollen substitute in there. Leave the lid off for about a half an hour to an hour, close it up. You'd be surprised how they remember where that's at. And they'll go back there and they'll start hauling it. And that keeps the weather off of it.
Well, I tell you, I bought one of those pollen traps also, that Sundance pollen trap, and I wanted to use it, but I'm not going to put it on now. I guess I should have collected pollen in the spring and then saved it for the fall.
Well, everything's give and take. If you take it, you lose it. And if you want to make bees, they need that pollen. So, you can't be greedy. You can't rob them the honey. You can't rob them the pollen. And you can't rob them of all their sisters and then expect to have a healthy hive. You got to let them have something.
Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to ask this also. What's the difference between ragweed and goldenrod? Is it 2 different plants?
Ragweed is usually, it's white looking. Goldenrod, when you got it up there and they bring it in, it smells like old gym socks, but most people say that smells like. It's a dark amber honey. It's not bad to eat. I like it. Ragweed, I mean, it's white. They have cattail blooms too. And I guess it's a little early for cattails up there. Pat, she might have cattails where she lives.
No, they're out already by us.
Yeah. You got to have some water or a swamp or a river. They come up around that.
Yeah, the sumac hasn't bloomed yet, though. So
our sumac, the staghorn sumac, bloomed in June. See, each region's going to be different. Staghorn sumac and sourwood, they come in pretty close to the same time, and if they overlap, it makes sourwood a reddish color. So people try to take their bees up farther up to where there's not as much sumac, more of the golden or the sourwood.
Yeah, I got to study my plants a little more. So, all right, Don, thanks.
Okay.
All right, looks like we got time for one last question or comment, and that is going to be Joe May. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. I started running the pollen substitute 365 days a year, the dry stuff, because I run a lot of hives. Now, you guys that's running 5, 10 hives may never have to feed pollen substitute. But 4 weeks ago, there wasn't a bee in the feeders. Now, I'm feeding 8 pounds a day. It looks like swarms on a sugar water. I mean, they're just swarming the pollen. They're hitting it harder than they are the sugar water. So you can leave it out there, the dry pollen, and they won't bother it. If they're bringing in natural, they'll leave it alone. But when they ain't got something to go to, they will annihilate it. And keep your bees healthy. Just something you don't want to throw in there.
All right, then that'll wrap it up for tonight. We will see everybody in 2 weeks on the 18th, it looks like. Thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Have them questions ready. Take care.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, everybody. Take care, Anthony.